Hi, Andre. Welcome back to Real Vision. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm excited to talk about your music career, your experience in crypto, and the way forward with music NFTs and everything that you're pioneering in the space. Thank you for taking the time today.
No, of course, I'm stoked to be back actually. So, I've been a long time viewer, and I'm just glad to be a part of this.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Why don't we remind the Real Vision audience of who you are? Your name's Andre, but you obviously go by an artistic name as well. Many may have seen it or not. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my name's Andre Anjos, but I'm primarily known for my artist name RAC. It's been a moniker that I think of it as kind of like an umbrella that I've made music under for almost 15 years now professionally. So it's been sort of my lifelong thing. I've never really had like a real job. I've only worked on music and tech and everything sort of surrounding my career. I could get into a lot of rabbit holes here, but basically, I've been working in almost every facet of the music industry, whether that's remixing, film and TV, scores, or releasing original work, working with major labels, working with indie labels. I've kind of done a little bit of everything, and perhaps more relevant to this conversation, more recently, since 2017, I've been playing a lot with tokens on Ethereum and with smart contracts and all that fun stuff. So that is kind of a broad overview. I was lucky enough in actually 2017 as well to win a Grammy, and that was an incredibly sort of validating experience. And my one quick anecdote is when I did win, my manager turned to me and said, "Is like, well, that's one for the obituary." And so that kind of a little bit morbid, but that's kind of his sense of humor, and it sort of follows you everywhere. So, that was like a really important moment in my career. But at the same time, that's also when I discovered crypto, and I kind of became far more obsessed with that side of things in recent years. So yeah, we can get into it, but basically I've done a lot of different types of projects within the crypto space and kind of been involved for a long time now.
Awesome. But it starts with music, right? From what I've read in multiple articles that you have out there, yeah, you're from Portugal and you used to play with cassette recorders and then mixing those as a child. So I would love to hear more about that, how, that creative process, what, 6, 7 years old, and how's that been with you through your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I was born and raised in the little country of Portugal. It's like pretty small place, like 10 million people. So I was born and raised there. My mom's American and my dad's Portuguese, so I'm like a dual citizen. I'm bilingual and all that fun stuff. And it was actually, again, this is kind of in hindsight, but I think it was due to that perhaps confusion or lack of comfort with either language that sort of led me to music. And I've always felt like it was a sort of a creative outlet that wasn't so strict, and you could kind of, it was a way to sort of express yourself in a way that was a little bit looser and a little bit less you know people wouldn't give me a hard time about it. So that's sort of roughly when I fell in love with music, and I felt like it was almost like a third language, like another form of communication, like an emotional form of communication. So that it's been a huge part of my life ever since.
Oh, that's amazing. I definitely relate. I'm a bilingual person myself, having grown up in Mexico and then coming to the States, and can definitely see how having the knowledge of different languages and cultures gives you a bit of an edge sometimes in understanding new technologies and new ways of looking at the world. So
Hmm.
let's dive a little bit more into your crypto experience. So you win the Grammy, your manager tells you, "Hey, yeah, remember you're gonna die one day." And how does that become, a crypto thing?
Yeah, I think there's just a little bit of context before that, which is that I have a bit of computer science background. I think it goes hand in hand when you're into music production, you're into computers, you're into the internet. So I grew up building computers, and I was always savvy with that kind of stuff. So I had been following, I'd basically been building computers since really the late '90s, and I've just been tinkering with that kind of stuff for a long time, and I became obsessed with Napster when it came out. I became obsessed with LimeWire, with BitTorrent, and BitTorrent to me was kind of a turning point because I felt like it was the first really truly decentralized system, peer-to-peer decentralized system that came up. That sort of shares a lot of principles that we sort of take for granted now in crypto, but it was kind of novel at the time. And this idea of creating, a decentralized service that couldn't be stopped to me was pretty cool. And I just love that idea, that it's sort of a neutral technology. And I became kind of obsessed with it early on, and I was pretty deeply involved in it. And I had sort of heard about Bitcoin here and there. I think like many other people, you probably saw an article about like how it's going to zero, or like something, or how it's a scam, or it's gonna boil the oceans or whatever. And like so, I've been hearing about that for a long time, and I kind of, not that I was dismissive, but I was like, okay, I'll check it out someday. And I also wasn't like deeply, financially motivated. That wasn't really my focus at all. So it didn't really appeal to me then until like really like late 2016, when that's when I really started to do more of a deep dive. I was like, oh well, this is actually really interesting. We're taking some of those same principles of decentralization, peer to peer, but applying it to a currency. And it's the mining thing was really confusing at the time, and I was like, I'm not really sure what's going on. Like, but at a certain point it kind of clicked. And it was really after, again, I wasn't too interested in the currency aspect of it, but when I discovered Ethereum, and this was through, I think I watched a YouTube video of Vitalik talking about it and just explaining it. That's sort of when I had that light bulb moment where I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant, because it sort of takes that idea that we used for currency in the Bitcoin blockchain and sort of made that general purpose, and you could apply it to basically anything. So that I became kind of obsessed with that. And more specifically, I became obsessed with how to use that technology to sort of change the music industry. And again, for context, for those that don't know, the music industry sucks. They're awful. It's like they're they're
But they gave you a
they're
Grammy.
well, they can give me all the Grammys they want. They're still horrible. It's not like this is sort of the more difficult part about this, because it's almost not like a people problem. It's like an infrastructure problem.
Okay.
It's sort of a status quo. I mean, there's definitely some bad actors in there, but I think a lot of people just sort of accept the system as it is and just say, it's like, well, this is how we do things. So, it's and I just wasn't okay with just accepting that. And I played the game for a long time, by the way, but I think after a while, I just decided that there has to be a better way. And I think that this technology could potentially enable us to rebuild the music industry in a way that's a lot more fair and equitable to artists. And again, just for I don't want to make this talk about like the problems of the music industry, because I could go on forever. But basically, just to speak about it roughly, essentially, artists are always the last to be paid. They're always paid late or not at all, and they're always paid, I think, like in between 12% to 50% tops. So the vast majority of the income that is generated by music, which isn't very much actually, is captured by intermediaries or large corporations, and people that are really more financially focused. And meanwhile, I think a lot of the artists, you know, live in this sort of quasi, poverty level. It's almost a cliche, like the starving artist. I have to say, like, I'm actually a little bit one of the fortunate ones. Like, I've definitely been able to make a living, but I'm very aware of sort of the problems that really all my friends struggle with, and have to deal with. So I became quite motivated to do something about it, and at least try it. And like, on the it's not purely altruistic or anything like that. It's a huge opportunity also for me. So, but it was something that I felt like it was worth exploring, and I didn't see anybody else doing it. So in 2017, I just started to explore that.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.